Hey everybody, Ecamm now has Zoom built in. What does this mean for you? You can now immediately join Zoom meetings right from Ecamm and have your Ecamm production brought into Zoom effortlessly, as well as bring in your Zoom guests into Ecamm, which allows you to have them as guests. So let's take a look at that real quick here. So what does this mean? So right here, you'll now notice that there's a Zoom button here. And when you click that, it'll bring the Zoom panel up. I have not linked my Zoom account yet, so you need to link your Zoom account. So you're going to click this, and it's going to bring the web page up to sign into Zoom. Once I've signed into Zoom, you'll see now that my Zoom account is linked right here. And if I click OK, I have a few different options right here. So the one is new meeting, and I can use my personal meeting ID or whatever. I can join, and I can see my scheduled events, which I have. So that's how that works. And so then what will happen is if I click a new meeting here, I'll go ahead and click new, and it brings up the the Zoom, which you can see now is going to go crazy because I'm in live demo mode. So it is going to look a little bit crazy, but it's essentially like a Zoom meeting. This is the Zoom controls. So now that I have done this, I need to invite myself to this. And then I'm going to go ahead and go out of live demo mode here for a second. And I will join my Zoom meeting. Now that I have joined Zoom, you can see this is my my iPhone here joining in a separate Zoom. So this is just like a normal Zoom meeting. Actually, I'm not showing demo. Just give me 1 second here. All right. Now, what you can see is in this Zoom meeting, you see myself just as if I was a separate participant. But if I go back into Ecamm and click the Zoom link here, you'll now see that it's showing the participants here, and I can add this to Ecamm. So now when I do that, I get a notice on my phone saying that this meeting is being live streamed. And the reason for that is because the way that Ecamm has to be able to get the video and audio from Zoom, it considers it a live stream. Even though I'm technically not live streaming, I'm just recording. It can be done in two different ways, and I can show you that in a minute. So essentially, I say OK, and I'm going to go ahead and hide the meeting controls here so you can only see my Ecamm. So essentially, now you'll see that if I'm down in here in my camera switcher, I have a guest. It's assigned to guest 1, and it's actually my Zoom, and so that's really super easy. So if I go into my guest scene, and let me assign this one to be camera A, and then I will assign this. Actually, it looks like that one's already camera B, which camera B is my Zoom. So now you will see it's my Zoom meeting, and it's really cool because it brings it in. You can bring in multiple guests on that. So that's definitely something that's really, really cool because, again, now you can just bring in Zoom guests right into Ecamm, and that's really cool. So now we can take a look a little bit at the new menu and preferences. So in preferences of Ecamm, you now have a Zoom tab too. And you can do a couple different things in here. So auto admit Zoom participants, never. So I've had them not doing that. So you can say, oh, no participants are always, so they can Zoom, bypass the Zoom waiting room. Auto adds Zoom participants to Ecamm as camera sources. So I said never. That's why I had to go ahead and click, my picture, my Zoom picture to bring them in, because you don't always want to bring all of your participants in. You can auto bring them in as you need them. And now here's where I was talking a little bit earlier, the different capture modes. So Zoom capture mode is how it gets the video. So you can do live streaming or recording. There is a difference on the way it does that. I usually just say live streaming for myself. And then you can do Zoom audio processing. So here I've said I disabled the Zoom audio processing. I don't want Zoom to do any audio processing. I want to leave that all with Ecamm. You can also then have it enabled so that the Zoom does its own audio processing. And then you can also say add Zoom chat to the Ecamm comments, which is really cool. So now you have the ability to have your Zoom content, your Zoom participants being able to see the chat. You can bring the Zoom chat right up on there. And then the other cool thing about this is you can you can sorry about that, manual audio mode. So if this is off, Zoom is going, or Ecamm is going to bring in Zoom guests as their own audio source right here, and you're going to be able to control them just like you would the guests in the guest mode. But if you choose the manual mode setting, what this does is essentially you won't be mixing in any audio to it. You would use this if you had like a Rodecaster Pro where you were bringing Zoom audio into a separate channel on that, and you didn't want to bring that in and mix that in with Zoom. So that's the settings right there. Again, it's really cool because you can bring your Zoom participants right in, and then on Zoom, they can see your whole production. So it's really kind of cool. So if you switch over to something like to that, it switches over to that. That's what they see. So again, this is really cool. It's a really good option now to bring your Zoom guests right in Ecamm, and it's really kind of cool to be able to see that. And again, then what you can do is you can show your meeting controls. And so that, again, this is essentially your Zoom meeting showing up just like you would before. So you have all the controls here. You have your participants, you have everything that you would have had in a normal Zoom meeting. The only difference is that it is actually going to be able to immediately bring in the Zoom audio and video to your guests. You have the ability to have your Zoom be audio and video right there. And so the other thing you can do is, as you can see now, this in the new Zoom panel, you have all of your Zoom participants that are there. And again, this is the ceiling here, but you can do the same things you did before as far as having the ability to view the source in a separate window. So if I do that, you can see the Zoom source in a separate window there. You can also source video monitor, turning that off, remove from the cameras, assign a placeholder, return to the waiting room, mute the guest, remove from the Zoom meeting. So if I remove them to the waiting room, what it did is it essentially just put them back into Zoom's waiting room, and so they're gone out of the waiting room. And if I admit them again, then they come back in, and I can then add them back in. So it removes them to Zoom's waiting room, not Ecamm's like you did before previously in the other thing. So that's really the basics of it. It's really cool because it does bring in the integration of Zoom into Ecamm and the ability to bring Zoom guests right into your Ecamm production. Previously, you had to use something like Zoom ISO to get isolated video out of Zoom. Now you can do this right in Ecamm. This is in beta right now, so if you want to check it out, you'll need to join the beta Facebook group and download the beta version. But again, this is beta. It's not in production of Ecamm, but it is amazing, and you can check it out. You can run beta right beside the live version of Ecamm. If you want to test it out, you can run your normal Ecamm live, but then you can run the beta. And so that's what you can do with Zoom for Ecamm.